All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out today. We are doing some fun stuff in the shack on, what is this, the 28th day of December. Wow. We're getting close to New Year's Eve. It's coming quick. But yeah, we're going to do some stuff around the shack that I need to get done. I have so many things, so many projects to get done this week. The nice thing about this week, though, is I am off of work, so it provides me the opportunity to do lots of stuff, get caught up on things, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the stream today. Let me go ahead, drop that open. So again, if you're hanging out, if you're coming in, come say hello, drop a comment, say hi, let me know what you're up to today. Hopefully you're not working. No work for me until January, so I'm excited about that. So hopefully, again, you're able to make it in. We're just going through making sure everything is doing what it needs to do that we have set up online. Making sure things are firing off as they need to. All right, that's looking pretty good. Open that up. There we go. Yeah, that does look pretty good, so I think we'll be all right. Boy, what a far cry from yesterday. Yesterday was just freaking wild in terms of the technical challenges and the problems that we were having with trying to get this stream to work. It was insane. All right, so we're going to go ahead and like that. All right. I really should be hooking up my... Thanks for hanging out today. We're working through some technical challenges, as usual, just seeing if we got things sorted out, figured out, working. So glad to have you. Boy, I was listening to myself there. I don't know where that came from. David, thanks for joining. I saw your comments from yesterday. And yeah, we were troubleshooting all kinds of stuff, trying to get all the kinks worked out as we usually do. But I think we got them sorted. You're telling me it's sounding pretty good, it sounds like? And if that's the case, then, ooh, that makes me so happy that we don't have to worry about anything today. But what are you up to today, David? Hopefully you're... Oh, so you got a ICOM 9700. Is that the case, David? You got yourself one of those? Because, you know, I would love to get a 9700 here at the shack. I don't have one. I, of course, have the 7300 for HF. And, boy, do those two radios look good together in the shack. So I don't know if you have a 7300. But now, if you don't, well, you got to get a 7300 to go with it, right? That's what I would tell my wife. I don't know if that would fly, but that's what I would tell her. Because they sure do look good together as a pair. All right, just taking a look, make sure everything looks good. Yep. Things are looking awesome. All right. Yeah, we had a much better time today. Oh, I bet. I mean, so do you have the 7300? Or do you just have the 9700, David? I'm curious on that one. Because, I mean, the 9700, the only thing that I've heard of as a negative, and again, I don't own one, is there's a little bit of drift on the, I believe it would be the receiver. Enough that would cause a problem if you're looking for something where precise stability is really important, like certain kinds of satellites, stuff like that. So I've heard a little bit of a challenge in those situations, but otherwise, nothing but good things because, well, it does come from ICOM, of course. So it's going to be good stuff. Oh, and the 705. Oh, man, you're rocking. You got all the good stuff. I mean, you got the quality gear, so you're going to have a good time with that. I would also like the 705. I used to have an ICOM 706 back in the day. That was a fantastic little radio. But no, I would love to have an ICOM 705 too. I think that would be super cool to have one of those. It would definitely be up there for me on my my Christmas wish list. I guess Santa didn't think that I was good enough this year. I did not get a 705 underneath the tree, unfortunately. But maybe next year, who knows? I guess I got to be better. I guess that's what it comes down to. All right, just getting my windows organized here. But yeah, we're having just a beautiful week this week. Now that we're finally drying out, it's not as cold as it typically is for us here in Minnesota, so that's fine with me. This is one of my projects today, is the Yaesu FT1XD. This is a great oldie but goodie radio from Yaesu. Back when Yaesu used to make good HTs, unlike today. I want to play around with a little bit of C4FM stuff and also some APRS changes to that radio. So that's on the docket today. We'll see if that goes smoothly. Boy, I said lots of people out working today. Here we are, lunchtime stream, and it's so quiet. So quiet today. But the 705 is a phenomenal radio. Oh, speaking of other Yaesus that were good, unlike today's HTs from them. I was showing this yesterday too. Another fun, good one, the Yaesu VX6 submersible HT. This one is a good one from Yaesu from back in the day. They don't make them like this anymore either, unfortunately. And I got the diamond antenna here on it. You can see the SRH320A. So this one also is one of my old go-to HTs. I don't use it as much anymore, just because I'm carrying DMR typically, but still, this is a really, really good radio. We'll see if anyone knows this one. Maybe you do, David. I don't know. Does it have a battery in it? No, it's dead. You know what this radio is? Here's a cheapie toy radio. Does this one at all look familiar? See if you can identify this. And if you're curious, I want to guess. Drop a guess about what band you think this radio is for. And you can tell this radio is really designed for businesses. That's really who the primary market of this radio is, but it can be used for amateur radio. Here's the back. They have the owner tag in the back of whose radio it is or who it belongs to. But what band do you think this operates on? Here's a better look at the antenna. What band would you say this one is used for? Drop your comment in the stream. Let me know. We'll see if anyone gets it. This is a tricky one, especially when you look at the antenna. It's a little bit tricky. So let me know what you think about that. Oh, let's see. Other stuff we got to get done today in the shack is we also got to get my Motorola R7 updated. I have some new frequencies I got to put in. I want to change my preamble tones. I got some other updates that I've been meaning to make for quite some time. Yeah, that's right, David. You got it. 900. It is the RT10 900 meg radio. It's funny, there's not a lot of 900 meg activity on amateur radio these days, right? Like it's becoming more, infrequent. And it never was that frequent to begin with. I mean, I remember the good old days of cordless phones when they were on that band. And now that a lot of those devices have vacated, there's a lot more space for us amateurs to play up there. But we actually do have a 900 megahertz DMR repeater in the Minneapolis area, which is fantastic. And that's why that radio does come in handy. I hardly ever use it, right? Ever. But I do use it to play around with that repeater, which that's kind of cool. So I'm glad that we're starting to get some of those things out there and then allow us to play around on 900. Because as we always say, like if we don't use the allocations that we have, the bands that we have, we're not going to have anything anymore. They're just going to get rid of them. So we want to try to really utilize what we have. The temperature here right now is 34 degrees, which I know for if you come from the south, that's going to sound pretty cold. That's 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that I see we have IZ1 GCN there, because of course we use Fahrenheit. And that's actually really warm for us here in the northern U.S. and Minnesota. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I think we're supposed to get up to 36 today. Typically this time of year, we'd be probably somewhere in the low to mid 20s for a high and on average. So mid 30s is great, man. We're breaking out the shorts, the t-shirts. I mean, we're washing the car at 35 in the driveway here. But yes, good to see you in there. IZ1 GCN. Thanks for saying hello. And it's great, David, that you have one in Knoxville because there's not a ton of stuff out there. And even if there is some wonderful repeater owner that put up a 900 meg system, they generally don't have a ton of activity. I mean, if we think that VHF and UHF repeaters, in the typical allocations of, in the 140s and then, of course, the 440 to 450 is dead, just imagine what 900 is like. But, the cheaper Chinese radios, the few that are out there, that are providing 900 meg as an available option, that's kind of giving, again, it's just like DMR all over again. People are getting access to these super cheap radios that otherwise they'd have to spend hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 plus on to get their hands on that would do 900. And now they can get one for dirt cheap. Now, they're not good radios, they're not quality, but it allows you to tinker and experiment. So that's not bad. And there's Jack. Good to see you, Jack. Happy to see that you're in here. Knee replacement surgery. Oh, man, that's never good. It must be, I said, all that climbing up and down the mountains out there in Colorado, Jack, over time. Hopefully, I said, you're not sidelining for too long and work has you keeping busy at home doing something versus heading up to tower sites and doing all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's fun to get the 900 stuff going. Back to that earlier point. I'm just opening up the Moto Turbo CPS here. I'm going to bring this over to this side. And let me see if I can bring this up. It should be something I can easily pop up here. Let me see. What screen are we capturing? Nope, we don't want to do that one. Let me add a new source here for you. We will grab a screen cap for you, and you can kind of see what we're working with inside a CPS. We'll add this as a number 3. Put it over here. Boom. All right, so this is the Moto Turbo Motorola CPS2. Pretty much most of my activity on DMR is using Motorola gear. I do have Anytone radios as well. I have 2 Anytone 878s, and then I also have an Anytone 578 in the vehicle. But for the most part, I'm using Motorola stuff when I'm at home, and I'm using my Motorola R7. So let's go up and take a look at, here I have some other code plugs that I was helping other people with. That's not what I want. I probably are going to want this one right here. So we'll go ahead and open up my my Motorola code plug. Take a look at it, get some work done. Whoa, there, now you can see what I see. I'm on my backside. Yeah, I said, good to see you, Jack. And hopefully I said you're on the mend fast and you can get back out there and, be climbing towers in no time or messing around in the shacks down below. So one of the things I wanted to do with this code plug is I want to change my talk permit tone. I think I should be able to find it. Let's see, is it under general settings? So if you've never had a chance to see what the inside of the Motorola programming software looks like, well, that changes today because that's what you're going to get to see here. So let's take a look here. Hang times, no, I don't want to scramble my voice. We wouldn't want to do that. I got all those things look good. Backlight. Got the preamble saver turned on. All right, what we're looking for is how I'm going to change my talk permit tone. So here we see I have it turned on for analog and digital, and you can choose to change it. I don't want to obviously do anything there. That all looks good. So now let's see, what else can we look at? Let's look at the audio profile. This mostly typically has to do with receive and transmit audio. I would be surprised if it's in here, but you never know. It could be. It could be in this section. Again, that all looks fine and normal. No, it was not in that one. Okay. So let's check another area and see if we can find something. Let's go to menu. This is all enabled as it should be. I don't see anything that strikes me there that I would want to use. That all looks good. Privacy off. Yep. Contacts. Yep. Nothing there. All right, let's head over to, I don't think it's going to be under voice announcements because voice announcements typically are like when the radio is talking to you. And it's trying to tell you hey, battery's low, or basically it's like an ADA thing, which, by the way, that's one reason why a lot of people that are blind, they do like Motorola radios because they really are accessible and compliant with ADA guidelines. So they can actually utilize their radio because they're used to things talking to them. That's how they have to navigate and know how things are working, is the radio has to speak to them because they can't see the screen and see the knobs very well. So a lot of people who are really hard of eyesight, they tend to really enjoy using the Motorola things. Although I am seeing more Chinese radios now start to focus on that too, and they're starting to provide that. Yeah, see, this is all stuff I would expect, where it's basically giving me a voice file, an MVA file that it would play, but it's not letting me necessarily change my talk permit tone. Well, that's not going to be super helpful in terms of doing what I wanted to do, but that's okay. We'll get by. So we'll go ahead and turn the screen cap off here, and I'm losing my windows here. Yeah, code plug time. That's right. I got to get this code plug done, and it's been on my list for so long. Where is the best place to buy Motorola radios? Yeah, it's really about, there are dealers out there, authorized dealers from Motorola, that also will service and deal with amateur radio operators. Not everyone will. There are commercial shops out there that just look down on amateur radio and will not deal with amateur radio operators. They refuse to. And that's fairly common, but there are ones that will sell to because they're like, hey, you know, money's green, we'll sell it. Although a lot of them also will not give you an entitlement for AES encryption, which I get. But eBay, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. You just have to be very careful, and that's probably something for more experienced people to do, because there's certain things to look out for to know a junk Motorola radio versus a non-junk. There's lots of people that will take bits and parts and put them on different radios and recase radios, tags versus no tags. If all this sounds foreign to you, I would probably stay away from eBay for a little bit. There are good retailers and dealers on eBay that sell used Motorola gear, and they're very reputable. So it's not like, no, you can't do that. But the Motorola dealer that I deal with, and a lot of people here in Minnesota deal with, it's usually the same company that we all get a lot of our gear from. A lot of the repeaters up here are all from this guy. A lot of the radios up here are all from this guy. And that is North Georgia Communications, which is actually, funny as it sounds, located in North Carolina. So North Georgia Communications, Google it, you'll find it. His name is Ken. And he's very, very apt to be, responsive and helpful to the ham community. So you can take a look at his site. He's a great source if you're looking to get a DMR radio. If you're looking for any of the Motorola repeaters for Moto Turbo, Ken has dealt with a lot of the different hams up here in Minnesota. So I would definitely look at North Georgia as an option. There are others, but Ken is also very responsive. Like, I text Ken, he'll text me back anytime within like 10 minutes. If I have a question, a problem, whatever, Ken's always there to answer questions or field phone calls too. So definitely Google them for sure. All right, let's see what else we got rocking. I want to check a couple things. That looks good. It looks like I got my it looks like my, what was that? Oh, no wonder. I backed it up. I was like, what am I looking at? I was getting very confused. So what we're on the hunt for, if I turn back to CPS, is I want to change, or I want to figure out how to modify my talk permit tone. I know it's got to be in here somewhere. I know you can do it. Here you go. You can see my custom bitmap. This is what shows up on my radio when I turn on the radio. This is my custom welcome screen. It has my call sign on it. That's pretty cool. So again, we're still hunting down where we're going to find this setting change. I don't think it's going to be in here. Alerts, self-pass. I can turn it on and off, but I can't change it in here. I want to leave my Bluetooth connection tone on. And one of the nice things about Motorola, now I have been using it for so long, is with some of the Chinese radios, there's all these different hardware versions that you can't even tell the difference when you look at two different radios with two different versions of hardware. They look identical. That's a nightmare. And then also there's all these different versions of software and drivers and all this junk that leads up to typically a lot of frustration for hams. There are companies that are a little bit better at it from the import radios and ones that are really bad at it. And that's why generally when a new ham will ask me, well, what radio do you recommend? What manufacturer when it comes to DMR as an entry level radio? And I go, well, it's not a $60 or $40 cheap toy radio I'm going to recommend, because that's just asking for all kinds of headache. I don't want to send someone down a rabbit hole of, getting super frustrated because they're likely to just not use DMR then. We don't want that. So I usually tell them to go to Anytone. Anytone does a fairly good job of distinguishing between their hardware. Their software is pretty solid and straightforward, and I've just never had any major hiccups with it. Is it perfect? No, nothing is. But again, compared to some of the other cheaper brands out there, I would definitely take Anytone over, say, like a TYT, certainly over Baofeng, and any of the other super, super cheap toy brands of radios that are out there. All right, let's see. Nothing in the RAS. Okay. I can't imagine it'd be anything in there. Neither would it be in there. Sensor settings. It's so funny. My radio has a noxious gas sensor and capability of transmitting that via network over to like some kind of software that alerts someone that there's an immense amount of gas or something that they don't want to be inhaling, in their area of work. I have it. I don't think I'll ever use it. I have no use for it, but it's one of those things where, I was like, I kind of wanted the radio right away. And they're like, this is the only one we have in stock, is like the fully loaded one with all the entitlements. And I'm like, and entitlements is like Motorola's way of saying features. And I'm like, well, if that's all you got, I'm not going to wait 2 months. This was during the supply chain crisis. And I was like, I'll take it. Although I don't think I'll ever have to worry about needing the noxious gas sensor. And if it goes off, something is very, very wrong at that point. So hopefully that never happens. We wouldn't want that. Yeah, I said it's just not seeing it in there. I'm not finding it. Let me do some Googling here on the side and see if we can figure out something. But if you have any questions, things you want to ask about, let me know. I'll be happy to take on anything you got. So if you have questions, comments, things you're wondering about, drop them in here. We'll go with it. Let's see. How do we change? Old trusty Google. How to change CPS2 talk permit tone. Let's see what we can find. Of course, it's taking me right into the forums. See, I already found an answer. That's the beautiful thing about Google. It says general settings end under alerts, which we were in, but it says make sure you use expert view. Otherwise, you won't see it. Okay, well, that is helpful. So we were under general, and he was saying it's under the alert section. I'm just going to enable expert view here. Get dealer info, the button bar log. That all looks good. All right, we were under that alerts, which is where we are now. All right, I can set voice files. I'll go add. It's crazy how many voice files they have loaded into this thing. For just about everything you can do on your radio, there's a voice file that will verbalize it for you. All right. Oh, is it only expert view? Well, no wonder I'm not finding it on the top toolbar. I'm like, well, where is it? Well, then that's probably bad information for me then, because that's probably talking about the old CPS they're referencing on this form. So, so that's not going to help me very much. Here, I thought I found it on the very first search result on Google, and I did not. Let me see if I can open up my customer programming manual and see if we can do that. Let's see here. Because I surely don't want to Well, I said you couldn't even do that. The firmware that you run on the R7 doesn't even work with the old CPS, which I'm surprised that Motorola is not pushing people off of that faster and trying to get it away, get it different. I mean, they are encouraging people by, they say if you run a certain firmware version and above, it will not be backwards compatible. But I'm surprised they haven't more quickly sunset stuff, but maybe it's a slow transition because they have lots of customers that are, using old stuff, and that's fine. That's probably what it is. Not everyone jumps to the newest, latest, and greatest stuff right away. All right. I'm still going through here as you look at me, watch my screen intently to figure out where this could be hiding. All right, we're under general and we're under alerts. Again, I see the talk permit tone under alerts, but it just shows me, like, do you want an analog, digital, just analog, or just digital? That doesn't really help me. Channel free indication, that's annoying. I don't want that. Nope. Fixed volume, nope. Oh, I should change the low battery interval because that thing is super annoying. It does it way too often. I'm going to probably at least double it. I mean, it's really annoying. So let's go to, what are we at? How many seconds? Let's go, how about 900 seconds? Because I can just look. I don't need the radio to alert me and bug me to go back to the office to get a new battery if I'm at work, right? I just need to be able to look at the screen and I can know. All right, emergency calls and call alert tones are infinite. That's good. Text message alert tone duration is 5 minutes. That's fine. Clear call received. Don't want that. That's annoying. Yeah, so it's there, but I just don't see where I can change what it is. And maybe I can't do it. I mean, I thought you'd be able to, because there's actually two different talk permit tones that I know for sure in the radio. And maybe the reason I don't have this other option is because I don't have AES 256 encryption as an entitlement. Because when you key up and do the talk permit tone, and it's in the clear, it's not encrypted, it's that usual Motorola talk permit tone that we're all familiar with, a little chirp. When you are using encryption, it actually is different. The talk permit tone is lower in tone. I won't try to emulate that like I did the last one because it wouldn't come out good, but it's a different sound. And I was like, I wonder if I can just use that sound as my default. But it looks like the answer may be no, but it's probably going to take some more digging to figure it out. Because I know it can do it, but maybe I would actually have to have that as an option, as an entitlement on the radio. That's totally possible. So that's the thing. All right, what else can we look at here? We'll close this out. Close that out. And one thing I was going to try today, and I almost did, and I still got to figure out how to do it, is I want to be able to do multi-stream. So I want to be able to stream to all of you on YouTube, but also be able to stream out to, say, like TikTok or Instagram, because I said I have followers on all these platforms, but if I just focus on YouTube, it's only a small portion, right, of total amount of people that are going to be following along versus being able to stream to everything at one time. So that is one more thing I want to try out. So we may be messing with that this week. Let's see here. Oh, and I don't know if anyone, I know Eric, remind me. Did Matt give you this radio, the RT3S that he's given me? I don't think so. Because I think that we were going to exchange it, right? I was going to give it to you at some point when you were going through some of your hotspot stuff. Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, I didn't think you did. And a lot of you that are watching may be familiar, if you're a DMR person, that this radio right here, which is the RT3S, it still even has this on it. I'm not taking it off. Matt left it on. I'm leaving it on. This is a radio that came from KC0LAW Matt here in the Twin Cities. He gave this to me to play around with. I actually had one of these. I sent it to a ham down in Omaha who wanted to give it to somebody that he knew that wanted to get into DMR. But this is not running the standard firmware because the firmware on this radio stinks. It kind of reminds me, and it's the same basic radio as TYT. But this is running OpenGD 77, which is a fantastic thing. If you're comfortable, flashing firmware, highly recommend OpenGD 77. I think Matt's call sign's still on here. Turn it on. It's tough to see. There we go. It's coming in now. Come on. Boy, it doesn't take long to get overexposed, does it? It's really tough to see. It just says settings updated. Click OK. But yeah, this radio right here is with OpenGD 77 is a good little radio. And you can even use it as a hotspot with 5 watts. That's kind of cool. That's one of the neatest features of this radio. Is be able to do the hotspot feature with it at a very, very high level output. So if you're looking for a radio, the RT3S may not be a bad option for just a cheap, use it in the shack radio, but put the OpenGD 77 on there. So that may be an option for you. Oh, it's sitting on 220 as we speak. That was the last thing I was playing with when it came to this radio. But again, these are okay. They're not terrible if you get rid of the software that runs them from the factory. What was this? And I still got my scanner project to do today. We talked about that yesterday. The BCD 436 scanner. So we got to get that project done today. This has been through a lot. Let's just say that. This thing's, God, how long have I had this? 7, 8 years now? And I would like to get the SDS stuff, but so much of the encryption is spreading so fast here in Minnesota that it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't make sense to spend $700 on a radio when it may not really be able to listen to hardly any public safety in the near future. Now, if you're scanning railroads, businesses, tow trucks, other stuff, sure, scanner's still useful, but man, it's sure becoming, it seems like a far gone, lost era of public safety monitoring is quickly going away. So that's kind of a bummer. That's a good question, Jack. Am I doing any Wires X stuff? I have my Yaesu FT1 XD right here. So this is my go-to C4FM Wires X radio. I rarely use it. And when I do use it, I'm typically sitting on MinWiz. When I come into SkyHub Link, I'm always on DMR. But I'm really playing more with DMR than anything. It's always been that way. I haven't done a lot with this. And that's because Wires X, and I know that, of course, you can go and do other reflectors and other things with this. But with Wires X, it's just so... It's easy, which is how it's designed to be, but it's so locked down that you can't do too much with it. I really just haven't gone that direction. We do have Wires X machines here. There's a couple good coverage machines. One of them is actually at my works headquarters up in the north side of the Twin Cities. That one, maybe, Jack, are you familiar with, what was it called, Eric? The Dark Room, Dark being D-A-R-C. Are you familiar with that one, Jack? Because that one's actually based here in Minnesota. The guys that started that are all based here in Minnesota for the most part. So there's definitely a cohort of people, and Eric can speak to this probably better than I. There is a small contingent of like hyperactive C4FM Wires X guys. A couple of them have moved out of state, but so there is that. But I would say there's more DMR activity in Minnesota than there is Wires X C4FM stuff. Which it seems like in Colorado, and maybe this is a SkyHub Link thing in general, Jack, but I mean, what would you say the breakdown is between C4FM Wires X and DMR is in Colorado? And I know generally what it was when I was there, but I'm curious if it's changed at all or if it's about the same. I know that both of them do get used, but what's your perception of which one gets used more? out there in Colorado. I mean, you guys got it made, as you know, Jack, when it comes to repeaters, because I sure do miss leaving my radio on one VFO and one single channel for 90 miles, 100 miles of driving. Here, it's like every 15 miles I have to change my channel. We got those flat land problems here in the Midwest. Oh, look at that. So you're saying that Wires X is doing its thing out there, that it's getting more popular. I mean, we had a couple of the good DMR machines. I know a lot of the DMR guys were up in northern Colorado that were really into DMR, the guys that I hung out with. And also Bud, I know, is a big thing. But you guys also are doing the best of both worlds, that you don't have to worry about which one, because you're just going to do multi-protocol and make it agnostic, and it doesn't matter. And I think that's the best way to go about it. Eric, Wires X rooms in Minnesota talk about Yaesu topics. DMR talk groups in Minnesota talk about tacos, beer, barbecue, and pizza. That's right. That is true. You know, we try to talk about a variety of things, particularly food, on our talk groups in Minnesota. A little bit of technical discussion here and there, but mostly talking about tacos and beer and barbecue. Oh, really? So you got a big machine up there on Milner. That's awesome. That's really great, because I know that wasn't Milner? Where was the big machine up in Fort Collins? What's the name of that peak again? I'm forgetting. They had a DMR machine up there, didn't they? That was the big NOCO machine, 3171 machine up there. What mountain am I thinking about, Jack? And then I'm assuming the club still has the machine on the southwest side of the metro for Denver, right? That's the 750. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Because, yeah, that was the big Denver Metro machine. And then I know that Marcos had North Table, had a small repeater that kind of covered the north part of the Metro. Oh, yes. That's my backyard there, Eric, Rib Mountain. I grew up just about 5 miles from Rib Mountain. Yeah, they do have one up there. Every time I go back home, I'm always having withdrawals from DMR. There is one DMR machine out that way, but it's not a bunch. Yeah, it's going to bug me. What mountain am I thinking about when I think of Fort Collins, straight west of Fort Collins, where there's a bunch of sites up there? God, what is it? It's going to bug me now. That was always the big gun DMR machine up there that covered from as you got 10, 20 miles north of Denver, you'd pick it up once you came out of the shadow, and then it would go all the way up towards Cheyenne. Is it Buckhorn Mountain? Is that what it was? Let me look. All right. Colorado. Let's see. Let me see. Let's bring up the site. Horsetooth. That's what I'm thinking of. Up on Horsetooth, they have... I think there's two of them. Now I see it looks like, oh man, they added a VHF machine up on Horsetooth. I'm just looking at the repeater map. Holy smokes. I mean, VHF up there, I'm not surprised. That's a massive footprint. Wow. Because most of the time when I was there, everything was for the most part UHF. But it looks like they had added a VHF machine on Horsetooth. That's wild. Yeah, that's crazy. So that's what I was trying to think of, was Horsetooth Mountain. That's the one that I used most of the time when I was up there, and I'd also use North Table. It looks like North Table is still there. And North Table has some coverage down in the metro, although I remember it was a little spotty. I can't remember why. It shouldn't have been. I think it was that's why. I don't know if Marcos changed it, but he had a directional antenna pointing northeast from North Table to kind of cover the northern suburbs, but still focusing and filling in the southern parts of northern Colorado. That's right. And I know long time ago, Marcos was like, we got to put a vertical up there. It looks like from the picture maybe he did, and took out the directional antenna. So that North Table one seems like it's still there. But yeah, I mean, that's all that stuff. We talk about it here. Yeah, no kidding, Eric. It's going to go a long ways. I mean, I remember when I left Colorado the last time and moved to Minnesota, I was leaving the state in my car. And of course, I had my radio in the car. I carried that sucker a long ways. And that was UHF, a long ways. Oh, I imagine it's a blowtorch, man. Yeah, I believe it. And that's why I said, like, I was so spoiled. And I knew I was spoiled. It's not like I didn't know it. But to be able to have, I remember people from Kansas checking into our local nets on the repeaters out there, the ones that are up in the hills, that's a huge coverage area for those machines. And not only that, I could use DMR handheld coverage pretty much everywhere I went in the greater Denver metro, which was awesome. Like downtown, everything. I just carried my handheld everywhere. I didn't even need a mobile radio. It wasn't a need because you have handheld coverage everywhere you go. Now I'm in the Midwest, and it's like if you don't have a voted link system, you're SOL within 20, 30 miles. Let's see here. B-Dale. Yeah, you got the Larson 270B. Opinion on performance, I like it. I've been really happy with it. As long as I said you have it installed properly in terms of a mount, I've been happy with it. I use it all the time. One of our UHF machines here, our large, relatively speaking, since we have Colorado folks watching, wide coverage machines here in Minnesota, the 444, 425, known as the blowtorch for us. Repeater in downtown Minneapolis. I worked that one from Monticello, Minnesota. So that works out to, God, what is that? Probably a good 30 to 40, maybe even 45-ish miles away. And I said I was outperforming some other folks in my party when we were traversing up the interstate here. So I have no problems with it. I mean, what's been your experience with it? I mean, Larson makes a good antenna. There's no question. As long as, again, the mount that you have it on is properly installed. If you're using like a Diamond K400 mount like I have, it's the one that I gave to you, Eric, to kind of check out. You just have to scratch off a little paint, make sure those set screws are getting into metal. You can use it as a no ground mount, but it does work better if you can get those set screws, really wrenched down into some metal. It definitely helps. But also, even I was surprised that it outperformed a couple other people because my car, being a Tesla, there is an increased noise floor on VHF and UHF. It's not nothing. It does raise the noise floor a little bit. So sometimes I struggle when I'm on the very, very, very fringe of coverage with getting into something. And that Larson was outperforming some other folks that were driving with me. So I was impressed with it. So you have to let me know what your experience was, B-Dale, because, I like my Larson 270B. I think it's a good antenna. And you know what? The bottom line is, if you want good performance from your antenna, you better get used to having an ugly antenna on your car. Because people do use like the compact antenna, the little pepper shaker, or other small little stubs, but they're just not very good. They look sleek, but they perform like crap. If you're in an urban area or right underneath the repeater and don't have a real need to worry about working on, kind of out more toward the fringe, then it's not a big deal. But an NMO mount drilled in the F-150. Oh man, brave soul. Yeah, I like it. I said I would take that over. I used to have, before I ran the Larson, I ran a Diamond. And I had a Diamond SBB2. I had a Diamond SBB7. And they were okay. They're not bad antennas by any means. But here's the thing I didn't like about them. I didn't like. The metal on the antenna in the Diamond is solid, meaning when you go on the highway, it doesn't move. It doesn't bend back, which is good, right? Your antenna stays pretty much straight up and down. So your pattern is not changing by your antenna wheeling back in the wind. But if you hit something with that antenna, if you knock into something, the chances are you're probably going to break the pin inside the antenna in the mount. Because I've had that happen twice, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Now, whereas the Larson, if you hit something, it's a thinner antenna, and it will move. It'll take some hits and not feel like you're going to snap your antenna immediately. So there's give and take in that. There's good and bad. But no, I've been really happy with the Larson. So I'm not surprised that you're also happy with yours. And you went full on, drilled the hole in the roof, which I have not. And I can't because I have no roof, or I do, but it's made of all glass. So I have no option like that. But good for you, drilling the hole, man. and just going for it, because that is the best way to go. Center mounted, dead center, top of the truck. That's the best place you could put that antenna, because as you know, or maybe you don't, if you move the antenna around and place it in different parts of the vehicle, depending on where you mount it, the pattern of the antenna will change. It will start to favor one direction versus another, forward, back, left, right, depending on where you mount that antenna. So if you can go dead center top of your roof, that's the best you can do from an Omni perspective. All right, let's also go over here. We were talking a little bit about this yesterday, and we'll kind of bring the conversation back up. I'm curious to those that are watching today what everyone's thoughts are on this. So let me see here. Yesterday we were talking about the Kenwood D75 Alpha coming out, and we're actually getting pretty close. I believe this is supposed to be coming out here in the next couple of months, towards the beginning of a traditional Q1 for 2024. And the pricing did get announced on this radio. The pricing is going to be, $750. So by the time you get through tax and shipping and all that, you're probably looking at all of a low $800 radio, just over $800. And I was not surprised by that at all. Like, when they were talking about this radio coming out, I was like, oh, this is going to be easily a $700 radio. I thought it would be $700 and not $750. So that was a slight surprise. But I mean, do you think that's a lot of money? Like, for this caliber of radio? I'm not sure if any of you that are watching have used it. I had a D74. I'm curious to your thoughts on that radio being priced at $750. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think, because I, again, was totally thinking $750, because the D74, the radio before this one, it came out at a $600 price point. It was a $600 radio. So supply chain, component increases in costs, etc. I was like, this is definitely going up in price. There's no question. There's no way they're going to build a new radio and then keep it at the same price. So again, to go up, I was like, this is totally fine. But again, $800 for that radio, some people are getting a little spicy about it. I don't know why. I think that might be a video I shoot today, is talking about that. But again, I won't mess with that radio until we get to battery life review. Like, I need someone to play with it for a while and tell me what the battery life is like. Because any of the radios that Kenwood's put out in that D line, boy, it's bad. I mean, you could turn on your APRS and like watch your battery life go down. So that's a little tough. All right, B-Dale, so you're located in upstate New York, 45 minutes from Canada. Well, we got that in common. I'm not quite 45 minutes, but I'm a few hours away from Canada myself, here in Minnesota. Oh, absolutely. You want to have a good performing antenna, because if you're in an area where your repeaters are not close by, the antenna you put on your car becomes all that much more important, right? That's right. You just put a plug in it. People get freaked out about a hole in their car. Yeah, you just pop a plug and everyone's all fine with it, because no one can see up there on top of the roof anyways. No big deal. But yeah, when you live in the city, it becomes a little less important, right? Because you got repeaters right around you or way up on the skyscrapers, whatever. But if you're out in the country, that is a whole different story. So it gets to be a little challenging, when you are out there doing something different out in the country, right? And your repeater is maybe 25 miles away, and you don't live in a place like Captain Jack's Flight Sim or Jack KE0VH. By the way, if you don't know Captain Jack, KE0VH there, he does all kinds of great flight simulator videos. So if you are into flight sim and like that kind of stuff, definitely click on his name. Go check out his channel. I think it's on Thursday nights, Jack, if you're still in there. Every Thursday night. I think I'm saying that right. So again, if you're into flight simulator, definitely go check out Jack there, KE0VH's channel, because he's got lots of cool stuff, and he does it way cooler than me, because I have flight sim. I don't know what the heck I'm doing half the time. He does like the real deal. Like, he knows all the pre-flight checks and looks up and clicks all the buttons. I'm just like, autopilot, put me on the tarmac, and I'm going to take off and try not to crash. And I'm working on takeoffs and landings and glide paths right now. But Jack is way more experienced in all that stuff. So if you like that sort of thing, definitely check out that channel. The D75 though, back to that. I am going to take the wait and see approach on that. I want to just see if they've touched battery life. I have a feeling the answer is going to be no, because the D72 battery life was pretty bad with the APRS. The D74 didn't fix it. And I wouldn't expect the D75 to be that much better. It should be better, because if they're looking at the commentary in the market from their customers, everyone says that. And it's absolutely true. So you'd think they would work that into their engineering of the next radio. But I don't have high hopes that that is going to be the case. I don't think they will do that. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't know. So I'm going to wait. I'm not going to put a pre-order in. Awesome, Jack. A lot of recorded video up. A lot of replays. Absolutely. There's lots of good stuff. I mean, it's mesmerizing watching Jack do his flights. And I said, listen to him talk as he's doing it. So lots of other good content that's already been out there on live that you can check out. So wait and see in the D75. That's kind of where I'm at. And actually, I just noticed here locally, maybe I can bring that up for the folks that don't know. We run a Discord server exclusively for Minnesota-based amateur radio operators called Minnesota Ham Radio. It's the name of the server. And there was just a guy who posted up, you might be interested in this one, Jack, I don't know. But he just posted up that he has a Yaesu for sale. He's selling his FTM 500D. And I asked him, I said, I'm curious to why you did. And he says, I'm just going full Motorola DMR and just, sticking to just that and getting rid of the FTM 500 in his truck. And he still has a FT5D, although I hope his HT is not cracked like so many of them are. And he's also got some ICOM stuff for D-Star. But so he's selling it $450 for the FTM 500D locally. And so that was kind of curious, because I know that radio was certainly, at least, it was hyped up a lot. I don't know, maybe Jack, do you have the FTM 500? Did you get that? Or are you still rocking the 400? Because the 400, of course, was the workhorse. And I know, Jack, that you've had a couple of them. And I think you have the later ones, Jack, that don't have the issues with overheating. And, of course, now they're doing this special trickery in how they're engineering airflow in the cases. That's what Yaesu has been talking a lot about with some of their newer radios. But yeah, he was like selling it. Don't see too many of those. 400, 300, and an FT3D. So you don't have a 5D or the 500. Okay. And did you have the 400 burn out? I can't remember. I could have swore I remember you having a problem. I don't know if it was a heat issue there or not. Did you have one go bad on you? Because I know, again, some of the early 400s had overheating issues. Well, as did the early Yaesu repeaters, too. When they came out with those and were pushing them on sale to clubs, they also had some overheating issues, too. Yeah, I said I know they made some changes and kind of reworked something to help them stop burning up because they had an issue with some of those early ones. I know that certainly was a thing. So that was interesting to see the FTM 500 listed here. And, I said I have 3 hotspots in the shack. And I did have one that would sit on Wires X. I shouldn't say it was Wires X because, of course, we know hotspots can't be on Wires X. But I was sitting on a reflector for MinWiz, the room, and I just didn't hear a ton of activity, and that's where I kind of just stopped listening to it and stopped dedicating a hotspot to it, because there just wasn't a ton of talk, unless you were talking about the net time. The net, people come out, they check in, and all of a sudden people go away for a week or two, and it's like, where'd everybody go? I mean, we try to use DMR consistently here in Minnesota, or at least we attempt to give activity every single day. In fact, yesterday, I heard someone call out, her name was Virginia, KC5SAM, and she was like, I need somebody to call my cell phone number. Because she wasn't sure if she had left her phone at home, at work, if she had lost it, is in her car, and she's like, I just need someone to call my phone. And the only thing she had with her was a radio. So she called out on D-Star on whatever reflector D-Star has for Minnesota. Nobody answered. And then she called out on Minnesota State for DMR, and I answered, and I said, yeah, I can give your phone a call. So I did that, helped her out, and turns out she left it at home. But she was like, it was so great, that somebody was listening, right? And I could ask for help, because that's why we monitor. It's like you just don't turn the radio on to talk and turn it off again. You monitor, you listen, there's somebody there. So, that's an important thing, right? Oh, so you and Skylar replaced some finals. Okay. Only a medium power and only full when you need it. That's probably a good idea. I mean, that's the thing. Even on repeaters, even on commercial grade repeaters, let's say they're rated 100 watts, I would probably still be like, yeah, I'm going to back that down to 75. Because if you're running it full tilt to what it's rated for, just naturally, you are going to shorten the lifespan of that hardware. You just will. Some companies, it's probably more pronounced than others, right? Where they're like, yeah, the claims of what they're rated for are a little shaky, and they may actually shorten even faster than you'd want. Versus even if something is commercially built really good, still, if you're running it full tilt, you are going to shorten that lifespan. Yeah, I said that's the way to go. And I saw, did you guys have like a big network outage? Was that like a weather-related outage, or is that just like a random like internet outage that happened? Because I got that email. Was it like in the last couple of weeks there was some kind of big network outage for you guys? I think I'm remembering that correctly. And if you're watching and into, you can get into this thing about every way you could possibly think of. So we don't have a huge audience here over the lunch hour, but make sure you check out Jack's system there, SkyHubLink.com. And it's just an incredibly impressive system that he and others out there in Colorado have built. With, again, every mode you can think of is built into this. But here's a look at the amount of repeaters that are on the system. And every time I come to this page, Jack, it keeps growing and keeps changing and getting bigger. So just absolutely incredible, the size of this system. And I think, Jack, there's still a node up in Canada, right? There's that Canadian station that was in there quite a bit. It looks like a good one you've added down there south of Albuquerque. But yeah, I mean, just look at this system. If you're in Colorado, you're probably within range of a SkyHub Link system somewhere, a repeater that you can get into. So it's just incredible. And again, this is... a lot of different things are tied into this. It's not like it's just C4FM wires X, although I think a lot of them, Jack, right, are C4FM wires X, if I'm not mistaken. It's not like it's just that, but a lot of them end up being that. But you can use DMR to get into that system. You can use, what am I missing, Jack? M17, I think P25, several in Canada now. Nice. Yeah, you can get in a lot of ways. And again, the fact that it's multi-protocol, even analog, is patched in to SkyHub Link. And that's one of the beauty things of it, is like it's really about getting people together and using their radio versus just caring about or focusing on one mode in particular. And that's one of the things that I hope that we in the Twin Cities can do, is to maybe look at going multi-protocol. I would like to see that happen. I think it'd be great, because we have P25 machines here that are linked together already. We have a decent number of DMR repeaters. If I had to take a guess, let me think here, ballpark this. I would say maybe 25 to 30 DMR repeaters across the state in total. And then, of course, we have the other stuff here for C4FM wires X. But at the very least, bridging together P25 and DMR, with also maybe even an analog machine or two would be cool to do here in the Twin Cities. But that's where you need a mastermind, somebody like a Skylar that knows how to do all the back end stuff, which I said I have limited experience with. Could probably fudge my way through it slowly, but certainly not my forte. But that's where, again, like folks like Skylar and Jack with your expertise on maintaining the systems and all that, a lot of work goes into SkyHub Link, and it's an awesome, awesome spot. And I believe, let's see if my memory serves me right, if you want to get into it on DMR, it's 310847 on Brandmeister. We'll get you into SkyHub Link. And remember, it's a huge system, so key up, wait a good second and a half, then talk. and leave a lot of space, because a lot going on with that system. The other thing I thought was interesting, I'm going to try to find this article. There's a really interesting article talking about pirates, radio pirates, that is, not the kind that are jumping atop of tankers, but radio pirates. And you often think that the FCC isn't going to do a whole lot, right? They're not going to do a ton. But I think what's fascinating is they do stuff. It's just not typically what people want, at least from the amateur radio perspective. Here is an article I was reading from Radio Inc. And the FCC checks list twice for pirates. They send out these warnings and say, hey, you got to stop doing this. And if people don't listen, yeah, I mean, they do come up with, significant penalties. And I think what's unique about it, too, is the Pirate Act is now making it so if you're hosting the transmitter for these things, you're also liable as the property owner, which is super interesting, too, which helps them put pressure on who's ever doing it. The property owner gets involved, and that makes it even more pressure situation for that person. But there was a person out in LA that was transmitting on, I shouldn't say LA, Lake Forest, California, and he was transmitting on 94.5 megahertz. There's also a person in Dallas on 87.7. That's the old Channel 6, which is very common to hear stuff on 87.7. That could be all kinds of randomness. And even down in Puerto Rico was broadcasting on 102.7. And so they sent out notices and saying, hey, can't do that. If you continue, you could get some major fines. And they've actually allocated in 2024 $5 million out of their $20.7 million budget increase to target those that are unlicensed radio operators. So I think we're going to be seeing more of these stories as we go into the new year. With this happening more and more and more. I know that's one area where the FCC is still pretty active, is under the broadcast area, right? And making sure that the folks that are out and doing these unlicensed broadcasts in the traditional radio broadcast spectrum, that they are enforcing that and not just letting people do whatever. So that's interesting, because a lot of times people want to see more enforcement for amateur radio, for GMRS, and, well, Citizens Ban. But Citizens Ban feels just like a foregone conclusion, a time gone by. I think that enforcement ship has sailed, unless it's something super egregious, which there could be one person in the Southwest that may be fitting that bill pretty soon, where a lot of people are getting upset. But you know what? It takes a lot when it comes to, like, pirates, or I shouldn't say pirates. It's more so people just being dumb in amateur radio. You have to build a case and gather evidence and track people down and document everything, and then get a lot of people involved. And even then, bureaucracy takes over, and it still takes a while. But it can be done. I know that there's some stuff going on, and I won't say what Midwest city, but a larger Midwestern city is dealing with somebody jamming a bunch of repeaters because of personal conflicts with other people. And they're going through and documenting everything and tracking them down and using SDR to track him with the Kraken, right? And triangulate his position and document everything and have all the paperwork, and working with the ARRL and the FCC. So it does happen if you do it continuously over and over and over a long period. Yeah, it's going to be a problem for sure. So that's my story on that one. It's going to be intriguing to see what comes of that story in that Midwestern city. Again, I won't say which one. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag about what's going on with that one. But it is going to be an interesting one to track and follow and see what's going to come of that. And if it actually ends up being an FCC fine that pops up that we end up reading about in some kind of publication at some point. Because it could be. You could be reading about that one in a matter of months. And if it is something that actually makes the news, that'll be interesting for sure. Because you don't see a ton of that, in the hobby. Occasionally that does happen, but I haven't seen it happen in quite some time. So if it does in this case, that will be something different. All right, last call for your questions for the 6 hanging out. I do appreciate it here over the lunch hour. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask them because we're going to be shutting her down pretty quickly. So again, questions, comments, concerns, things you want to ask about, things you want me to pratter on about. Drop a comment here over the lunch hour. And thanks for hanging out over the lunch hour. I do appreciate it. And also probably going to work on some video content here today too this afternoon and get a video coming up about the Kenwood D75. We'll probably do a video for that and put that information out there for folks just so they know kind of, again, how I'm viewing that. So we'll do that. But yeah, then get back to working on code plugs and getting back to update the scanner database and the Uniden. Get all that good stuff done. So not seeing any other questions come in on the Ask Me Anything today, but Jack, it was good to see you. Eric, you're probably still hanging in there. Thanks for hanging out over the lunch hour. And it seems like we got the problem fixed with streaming because yesterday was a nightmare. Today seems to be a lot better. I've had no hiccups that I can see on my end. I've gotten no alerts from stuttering or anything weird happening. Yeah, everything looks good. So I've gotten none, which is great. So I'm glad we were able to get that ironed out. And thank you to Eric, W0EDG, for his help. Audio and video a little out of sync. Well, that's good to know because you're giving me one more rabbit hole to go down, Eric. But not bad. But if you bring it up, I got to track it down now. It's probably just I needed to have a little delay, a little sync, maybe like 20, 30 milliseconds in there, and we'll see if we can line it up. But again, thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll do more of these. I'll try. I should have said nothing. You got to say it, man. You got to say it. It may take me 3 hours to now track down how many milliseconds I need, but we're going to get it done. What's going on, Steven from Connecticut? N180, hello. Happy, what is this, Thursday? I don't even know what day of the week it is. It's such a weird week when you're in between Christmas and New Year's. Happy Thursday afternoon out there in Connecticut. Hopefully you guys are nice and dry and having good weather like we are now that we're finally drying out here in the Twin Cities from 3 inches of rain, which is insane, in December. So, all right, guys. Again, have a good rest of your afternoon. Have a good evening. We'll definitely try to get on at least once more. I'll try to plan a topic around that one for the end of the week to continue working the kinks out. And we'll catch you all later. Have a good one.